In 1941, Hitler betrayed Stalin and broke their agreement. The German army invaded Russia and also stormed across the border into Estonia. It was now the Nazis' turn to devastate the country. Nazi ideology replaced Soviet propaganda. Young Estonians were either forced into the German army or shot. But within 3 years, the war turned against Hitler. Germany retreated, and Soviet troops once again invaded Estonia.
So what are you supposed to do within the 4-year time span when you have both your enemies there, opposing each other and opposing you? Aha! Who were those Estonians who cooperated with the Russians? We had to get rid of you. And then 3 years of German occupation and the Russians come back. Ha! Who were those who cooperated with the Germans?
With grisly memories of the year of suffering, 70,000 Estonians, fearing death, fled the country. But it wasn't an easy escape. Some drowned in small fishing boats. Some were killed by Soviet planes. Others were captured. But thousands eventually made it to the West, where they would preserve the Estonian language and culture, hoping that someday they could return home.
All our family was torn apart. Part of the family was deported to Siberia, part of the family escaped to the West. Some stayed here, and some were killed.
But the rest of the world knew little of Estonia's suffering. In 1945, Stalin convinced the Americans and the English that he would soon set up free elections in Estonia. Roosevelt and Churchill agreed to this deception, and Stalin walked away with Estonia in his firm grip. World War II officially ended soon after. But for Estonians, this was just the beginning of a new, long chapter of Soviet occupation. The country was devastated, having lost over 1/4 of its population.
There were tens of thousands of people who nevertheless decided to fight because they were sure that you couldn't give this country away without fighting. Only a nation who fights for its freedom can have it, even if this fight is lost.
"30,000 young men and women took to the woods to fight for a free Estonia, ambushing Soviet soldiers and sabotaging military convoys. They called themselves the Forest Brothers."
Ja nii siis läksin mina ka varakevadel 1945. Läksin ära metsa, võtsin kirve ja oma suure revolvri, mis oli selleks puhuks juba varutud. Ja läksin lihtsalt metsa ja hakkasin metsas elama. Tegin omale punkri elamise jaoks. Siis kohtasin me teisi metsavendi. Elasime koos nendega.
Alfred Karman lived in the forest for 8 years, 1 month, and 7 days.
Keegi meid ei kuulnud, keegi meist välja teha ei teinud. Meid tapeti ja terve Eesti rahvas oli kommunistliku vägivalla all. Raudne eesriie oli karmilt kinni. Põgeneda ei saanud ja nii läks elu edasi. Meil ei olnud seda lootust. Meil ei olnud mitte mingisugust peale selle, edasi elada nii kaua, kui on võimalik. Meie viimased mehed, kes metsa jäime, meie arusaamine oli niimoodi, et nii kaua kui relv käes, elu sees ja Eestimaa pind jalge all, allaandmist ei ole.
Like many Forest brothers, Kármán placed his hopes in the promise that the West would eventually pressure the Soviets to leave Estonia. This never happened. In 1952, he was captured, interrogated, tortured, and then sentenced to 25 years of hard labor. With the occupation fully entrenched, the Soviets next began an intense period of Russification. Tens of thousands of Russian workers were relocated to Estonia, sometimes forming entirely new cities.
Russification was one of the main tools for keeping the Soviet Union together.
Farms were taken from their owners and collectivized. Those who resisted were arrested and sentenced to Siberia. Anything that could bring back memories of pre-Soviet life was destroyed. Estonia no longer existed. It was now a Soviet Socialist Republic. But there was one thing holding Estonians together, giving them hope. Singing. For thousands of years, music has been a vital part of life here. In fact, this tiny country has one of the largest collections of folk songs in the world. And since the 19th century, Estonians have traveled from all over the country to join voices in massive song festivals. These festivals were as much about national identity as music.
Every corner of the country where they had a small singing group had the right to participate. They practiced the songs all winter, and then they came together, all in national folk costumes. 25,000 singers on the stage at the same time.
But with the Soviets in power, things changed.
Laulev rahvas, neil on millest laulda, kelle auks laulda, laulda rahva uuest sünnist, laulda võidust, laulda suurest Stalinist.
In 1947, after years of war, the song festival continued. But now, the Soviet propaganda machine realized that this huge gathering provided the perfect opportunity to show how delighted Estonians were to be living under communism. But the festival also presented an opportunity to Estonians. Conductor Gustav Ernesaks composed a new piece of music to premiere at the festival. The lyrics were taken from a well-known national poem written 100 years earlier by Lydia Koidula. Its title was Mu Isamaa on the Minu Aram, or Land of My Fathers, Land That I Love. Surprisingly, the song slipped by the Soviet censors, and suddenly 25 voices were singing a love song to their former country. The song was sung in Estonian, not Russian, and in a matter of moments, it became the unofficial national anthem.
And it's a beautiful song. The words are so nice. And definitely it was a sign of protest, where all this pain and love and belief in the future of this nation. And I guess this very moment was important for all Estonians.
Nii et laulupidu ei ole meil mitte ainult muusikaline sündmus, kus me kuuleme meie paremaid laule, vaid see oli ja see on ka praegu edasi. Kõigepealt võimalus läbi elada seda, et me oleme eestlased, meil on oma kultuur, me oleme üks rahvus. Meid on nii vähe, et me peame seda rõhutama, et me oleme olemas.
Throughout the 1950s and 60s, life under the Soviets consisted of communist youth groups, May Day parades, and thousands more deportations to Siberia. People couldn't express anything that might be construed as political opinion, fearing the omnipresent shadow of KGB surveillance.
It was all behind the scenes, constant psychological pressure. It was amazing, a monster, and you never know how big it was, where it was, who in your family or your friends, who were the agents. So there was never official face of the organization. It was always behind the scenes in the minds of the people, and they were very effective in making you scared.
Even the simplest traditions, like celebrating Christmas at home, were forbidden.
My father took the Christmas tree home every Christmas, but the curtains was closed, because if someone saw that you have Christmas tree in your house, it was very bad.
I am not absolutely aware that most of Estonians thought that we can be free. We just try to find the way how to make this life better, more honest, more open, more happy.
So much depended on the family situation because parents couldn't speak easily. At school they taught a lot of crap, but I did get some hints from my parents. My father mostly told how things really were.
I still have inside me that things that we talked between ourselves had to be kept in our house and never to be spoken, even to our closest friends at school. I couldn't talk about these things outside.
Because Soviets were afraid, of course, of the big enemy there outside, wanted to come in and wanted to destroy all this beautiful socialist happiness that we are living. That was a main issue.
Throughout the years of occupation, the song festivals continued, with 2 days of Estonians begrudgingly singing songs about communism and Lenin and Marx. But at the end of the festival, they sang the traditional Estonian songs as well.
And everybody actually came to this laulupidu to sing these 3 or 4 additional songs. But this was